What is up, Cuse Nation? Welcome to Orange Heat Episode 2. My name's Giovanni Heater. I want to first off take the time to thank everybody that has reached out and watched the show thus far. In just one short episode, less than a week, we already have 35 subscribers to a brand new YouTube channel and 192 views on Episode 1 of Orange Heat. So that's huge. I can't thank you guys enough. I've really done my best to get it out there, and you guys have certainly followed through, so keep it up and stay tuned for more. Go ahead and add me on Twitter at GeoHeater. I put up a ton of stuff on the daily of Syracuse athletics. I do a lot of my own opinion on there. I put up a lot of polls, such as, score guesstimations, stuff like that, predictions, whatnot, how people are feeling about games, everything like that. So nonetheless, let's dive into it. I wasn't able to watch the entire game on Saturday, just a little bit in the beginning, because I had some stuff going on. I had play rehearsal. But I did go back and watch the condensed game on the ACC network. And nonetheless, Syracuse comes away in Winston-Salem with a win. 41-24 was the final tally in favor of the Orange. Syracuse improves to 7-2 on the season, and that's absolutely amazing. I'm so excited about that. I was a little bit nervous going into this ball game. No more. And you know what? That terrible burden has been lifted, and we finally have won a road game for the first time since 2016 in the ACC, so that's huge. Eric Dungy clearly had an enormous game, which we'll get into later on in the show. We also developed a big run game today, and that was huge because we haven't really had that in the past thus far, and surprisingly, the run pulled through when we needed it because we weren't able to pass as well as we may have wanted to. My prediction for this game was 42-35 in favor of the Orange, and I was pretty darn close. 1 point off on the offense and 11 points off for the defensive perspective. So you know what? The defense did a little better than I thought they would, and they impressed me to certain extents. There were some difficulties going on there, and the offense was pretty spot on, but they didn't do it in the fashion I thought they would. I did not expect a huge running outburst from this team. With that being said, you got to nitpick a little bit because there were things to nitpick on in this ball game. Let's just get right into that. First off, the game started slow, and it was painfully slow at the beginning. I was thinking throughout that whole time they're going to blow it because to get off, you have a couple 3-and-outs, and you allow, Wake Forest to march right down the field, go up 10-0 early in the ball game before you even put up a single point, really before you have any offensive production at all even. And they also allowed a big punt return, and it was a little bit slow to start. Now, with that being said, that was in part to the referees really helping out Wake Forest a little bit. I'm not trying to put the game on the refs. You can never blame a ball game on the refs. But they did give Wake Forest a few pass interference calls that really, no calls rather, that should have been called. Clearly should have been called. There was, Custis had his arm grabbed pretty good going up for a one-handed catch. No pass interference called. There was one where Custis was trying to go back to the ball, and the guy kind of just ran right into him, not even looking at the ball. Clearly should have been a pass interference called, was not called. What are you going to do? You can't put the ball game on the refs, but that did affect us early on in the ball game. I think that there was some poor blocking on some of the screen or pitch plays to the outside by some of the receivers. I saw, and not trying to get at Sean Riley, but there were a few times where he just really didn't give an aggressive enough block or really a block at all. And it could have turned out for a bigger play than it ended up being, and we ended up losing yards a couple of times. So the blocking could have been a little bit better by the receivers, I think, but they are smaller guys. But if that's one thing I had to get out with that would be one of them. I think we also gave up too many penalties, We had a pass interference or two. There was a face mask by Alton Robinson. So you just little costly mistakes that in a bigger game could cost you, especially when you're playing on the road. And you need to get off to a fast start on the road. We weren't able to really do that. We really, really, really were not able to stop Hartman whatsoever. He tore our defense up, and he really read us well. He ended off the day with 275 passing yards, 51 rushing yards, and 2 total touchdowns. He looked like Eric Dungy on a regular game out there, to be quite honest, and he's just a freshman quarterback, so kudos to him. I mean, I would have liked to stop him a little bit more throughout the ball game, but nonetheless, he really showed out for his team, and he was really the reason that it was kept close at all whatsoever. We were also sacked a little bit more than usual, 3 sacks on the day, which isn't a lot, but Wake Forest was the 124th defense in the country, ranked out of 129. So that's really, really bad, and we allowed them to sack us twice, their defensive line. So would have liked to see a little less there, a little bit better push from the offensive line, giving Dungy a little more time. He was running for his life on a few plays, but you can't, it's never going to be a perfect ball game. You're never going to not allow any points. You're never going to have no mistakes. So all this is expected, and we ended up with a win. That's all that matters. There wasn't too much out of Nykeem Johnson or Taj Harris. Actually, there really wasn't anything at all. Nykeem Johnson ended the day with 3 receptions for just 6 yards, and Taj Harris half of that, 1 reception for just 3 yards. So obviously Wake Forest knew that we were going to try to pass the ball, and they knew those were 2 of our best guys out on the field as far as the receiver category goes. So I think they really tried to shut them down. They're both young players. They could have gotten into their own head a little bit, but I talked about last week how good I thought they were and how good I think they're going to be, and I think they are amazing. I think they're arguably the 2 best receivers on this football team, and we have a lot of good ones. And I think absolutely bright future, just not the best game out of them this week. The secondary made some big plays when needed, but, for lack of a better term, they kind of got torched up a little bit. They allowed a lot of yards, 275 passing yards to be exact, and it's just not what we expected, I don't think. Andre Sisco, Trill Williams, they're young, Antoine Cordy, Christopher Fredericks, Scoop Bradshaw, some really, really elite players on this football team. Couldn't really get it done. They did make some big plays, not as many as I would have liked to, though. Like I said earlier, not enough in the pass game. It could have been in part to the wind. I think the weather affected it a little bit. It was a nice day out, just a little bit of a breeze. Dungy's not used to that, used to playing in the controlled climates of the Carrier Dome. A couple times where you could tell the ball sailed a little bit, not only for Dungy, for Hartman as well. So I think that affected the pass game just a little bit. All right, enough getting at our own football team, for the love of God's sakes. Let's go on to the good stuff, because there was plenty of that. Biggest thing for me, number 1 on my list, we stopped Matt Colburn completely. I was worried about him coming into this ball game. He torched Louisville for well over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I was really worried about that. We really haven't stopped the run game well this season, and it cost us 2 ball games in Pitt and in Clemson. But that wasn't the case today. The linebackers stepped up. We held Matt Colburn for just 67 total yards and no scores. So that was huge for me. And he was their leading rusher as well. It was a sack party out there for the defense. And I mean a sack party. We ended up with a ton of sacks, 2 out of them from Ryan Guthrie, 1 from Evan Foster at the safety position, 1 from Alton Robinson, who's our man, and one guy surprised me in particular, Kenneth Ruff, coming up, getting 2 sacks on the day, more than he usually does. In fact, he typically won't get a sack at all. So that was huge for him. It was nice to see a new face really stepping up, making some big plays for our Syracuse Orange defense. Our defense also forced a good amount of turnovers, 3 to be exact. 2 of them were fumbles, and 1 was an exceptional pick in the corner of the end zone by Christopher Fredericks. It was a high-pointed ball thrown up by the quarterback, Hartman. And it was a decent throw, and Fredericks just went up and made a great play on the ball, high-peaked it, and told the receiver, this ball's mine. And so that was big. Great interception by Christopher Fredericks on that play. Another thing that I saw out of this defense was a lot of hard hitting. I think it's part to Dino Baber's culture maybe, but this team hits, and they're not afraid to hit, and they really just put their body in front of it. They put everything on line for their team, and they're hunting for heads out there. And it's great to see because we haven't seen that in Syracuse in a while as far as this defense goes, really giving it all out there. Alton Robinson, as I said, future NFL draft pick, mark my words, put it in the books. I think no doubt in my mind Alton Robinson's going to the NFL, going to be the next Dwight Freeney or Chandler Jones coming out of Syracuse. And he's been making some big plays that have caught my eye, other than just sacks. He's really got some shifty moves on the defensive line to get by an O-lineman, and that's huge. And he's doing really good on the end, and he's making big plays like batting the football away. He had one on Hartman where he just really was squared up by his man, knew he wasn't going to get to go over the back, so he jumped up and put his arms up and made a great play, knocking the ball down so that it couldn't even get a chance to get into the secondary or the second level in the air. So really, really big production out of Alton Robinson in his second season. I'm really impressed with him. Now, let's move on to the offense. My biggest thing with this Syracuse Orange offense that played pretty well today, or yesterday rather, or actually, yes, it's Sunday, was no turnovers. None at all. That's the second week in a row where Syracuse ends a ball game with no turnovers, and that's been a huge part of our success, winning the last 3 ball games, actually. It was clear that Eric Dungey put on a show. It was the Eric Dungey show, and he's officially back, in my opinion. 157 passing yards, 119 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown on the day for the Dunster. So he really put on a show, and he had a great showing out there. Another thing with him, though, like I said earlier, the pass was shut down, so it was really great to see him have a lot of production on his legs. So elusive out there. I mean, he looked like a man amongst boys, and he really impressed me. It was the good old Eric Dungey was back, and he was running around people, running through people, you know, and he's gotten smarter with his sliding. Like I said, 119 rushing yards. It was a huge showing from Eric Dungey. They were able to get back to the passing a little bit more in the fourth quarter. It was clear that Wake Forest knew we were going to pass the ball, and their main goal was to shut down the pass, which they did. And there's no way around it. They were able to shut down our pass ball game, and it was good that our rush offense was really able to strike forward. And that was clear because there was more production than other guys than Eric Dungey. For example, Mo Neal had 67 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown. Dante Strickland, 64 yards on 13 carries. And the thing with Strickland, he was running tough out there. He ran through people. He ran over people a couple times, and you really don't see that out of Strickland much. So that was great to see. We didn't have any receivers today for over 100 yards, but we did have 2 guys in particular that had big ball games, really similar ball games, actually. Sean Riley finished off the day with 64 receiving yards. Custis with 62. There was no passing touchdowns. All 5 of them were on the ground, but it was good to see out of them. I think that Jarvion Howard, clearly our short gain and goal line running back that we go with. He's a bigger body. He's really physical out there. And he ended up the day with 2 touchdowns on only 12 yards. So clearly he's able to push forward, get those first downs, get those goal line situation touchdowns that are so very needed. And I think next year he's going to be amazing. As I said last episode, he's so good. He can be elusive. He's not afraid to run at people, run through people. And him paired with the Oklahoma transfer we're getting next year, Abdul Adams, who had to sit out this year due to transfer rules, they're going to be special. I think they're going to be a duo, not to make comparisons, but you know what? We get to make comparisons, actually, because we're in the conversation still for a college football playoff, which we'll get to later. But I'm going to make a comparison to Nick Chubb and Sony Michel out of Georgia, because those two, Sony Michel, the speed back, really elusive, and Nick Chubb, more the power back, remind me a lot of Jarvion Howard and Abdul Adams going into next football season. Adams, so quick, made some huge plays for Oklahoma, just didn't get along well with the coaching staff. That's why he's come to Dino Babers in this great Syracuse offense. And Jarvion Howard, really just a physical runner. I think those two are going to be really special next season. Chris Elmore, the big fullback, also lined up at tight end once in a while. Had a 5-yard touchdown run that impressed me because typically if he's going to get one, it's on the goal line, but he really squirmed his way in there for a big touchdown. He's done great blocking in the backfield. He's the lead blocker in the backfield for this Orange offense, and he's done a great job out there. Special teams played a big part into this win, as they always do. Sterling Hofstrichter, man's an absolute beast out there. He really followed in the footsteps of Riley Dixon, NFL punter now for the Giants, was with the Broncos. he followed his footsteps really, really well. He had 288 punting yards on the day for the Orange. One thing that really has impressed me with the punts is Jamal Custis on the punt return defense. He's really getting in the face of these guys that are trying to return these punts and making big plays. He ripped down one of the Wake Forest punt returners for a loss today. He caught it around the 5, took him down around the 3, and Custis really in their face. He forced the Clemson punt returner to muff 2 or 3 that day. So he's done an exceptional job down there, and that goes really unsaid. So I wanted to give Jamal Custis a nice shout out there. The redshirt freshman kicker Andre Schmidt has been amazing for this Syracuse Orange team. Not to discredit Cole Murphy, but it's a step up because, at Florida State last year, we needed a big kick to send the game into overtime. Cole Murphy couldn't come through. And just missing kicks every once in a while wasn't exactly what we wanted last year. Andre Schmidt, who we didn't even think was going to be the go-to guy. We thought it was going to be Sterling Hofstrichter, the punter. Andre Schmidt's been absolutely huge. He's been absolutely automatic, actually, to be exact. 23 for 25 on the season thus far, and he doesn't miss. He kicked a 51-yarder in Death Valley against Clemson earlier in the season, so he's very, very good. I'm going to do this thing now every single episode for both football and basketball. I'm going to do 2 for football, 1 offense and 1 defense, and that is the Orange Heat flame of the game. Our offensive flame of the game, you can't go with anybody else other than your senior quarterback, Eric Dungey. Eric Dungey ended up the day with 276 total yards of offense and a touchdown. So great production out of him. And defensively, my pick, it was a tough battle, but I had to go with Ryan Guthrie, the junior college transfer, the veteran college football player there, really filling in for Zaire Franklin and Paris Bennett at the linebacker position. He ended off the day with 11 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. So great production out of him and the rest of the Syracuse Orange defense. Overall, to cap it all off, it was a little bit of a stressful football game, I'm not going to lie. But nonetheless, that's a win, and that is all that matters. You're 7-2. You're in the conversation for one of the best teams in the country, and it's really, really exciting. If you told me this was going to happen to start the season, like I said, I'm always optimistic, but I wouldn't have thought it would go this far, this early on in Dino Babers' career. So great stuff there. That's a win on the road, finally lifting the burden off our shoulders. Huge game out of them. Though it was stressful at times, huge win. I really wanted to touch on Dino Babers a little bit. Culture instilled. Called it instills. These players are believing. These players are locked in. And these players know what's up. They're coming into every ball game serious. They're coming into every ball game knowing that they are winning this ball game. And that's huge. You can see the team really clicking. The team really meshing well together. And they have great chemistry out there. And it's showing on the football field. With that being said, so much chemistry, so much of great coaching leads to job opportunities for Dino Babers. Now, he was on a list that I saw earlier in the week to replace DJ Durkin at the University of Maryland. Everyone knows what went down there. Don't got to get into that. But he was on that list in about second, and I don't see him going to Maryland whatsoever. They're kind of a broken football team right now. I don't think Babers wants to get into any of that. And nonetheless, there's really no pay raise there. The salary's just about the same as what Syracuse is offering him. And in fact, Syracuse probably going to give him a little bit more money going forward with the success he's having right now. And, he's instilled a program here. It's flourishing right now. It's striving forward. So I don't see him going to Maryland at all whatsoever. But Orange Nation, get used to it because he's a great coach. He knows what he's doing. He's a great motivator. And, job opportunities are going to come. Fingers crossed he does what we're hoping he does, stays around for a very, very long time, builds a very productive football program. Because, yeah, he's proven that he can do it, but I don't think he's proven everything yet. I think there's still a lot to prove. You got to do this season in and season out, be in the conversation, be very good, be ranked, to really, really instill a program that we're not just a basketball school, which I don't think we are. I think we're finally getting back to, we have a history of being both. I think we're finally getting back there, both a football and a basketball school, and don't discredit Syracuse lacrosse either because they have plenty of history there. Also some great teams, just a shout out. Men's soccer, really great lately. Women's field hockey, women's hockey, ice hockey. So, not to get into all that. Women's softball, I heard, had a great season last year. But Syracuse is just a great, flourishing athletics, and they've always been in the Atlantic Coast Conference newly, too. So that's really, really big. But like I said, get used to Dino Babers getting some opportunities, and we just have to hope for the best. I think that he's a good guy. I think he's a good man, and he'll do the right thing. Next, I have to discuss the rankings, and I'm pumped. I'm stoked. Syracuse finished last week 24th in the coaches poll, 22nd in the AP poll, and number 19 in the college football playoff rankings. So that was huge. And Syracuse, the rankings came out today for the coaches poll and the AP top 25. We landed both polls at 13th in the country. Huge. I didn't expect to be that great. I knew a lot of teams lost. I knew we had a chance at cracking the top 15. But getting to that 13th spot is huge. I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock when the college football playoff rankings come out. If we're going to be that high, if we're going to be a smidge higher, they impressed us last week, or if we're going to be a little bit lower. Regardless, I think you do crack the top 15. I think it's a great place for Orange Nation. And with that being said, though, we got to keep it going. Got to take care of business this weekend against Louisville, Friday night, 7 p.m. in the Carrier Dome. We're going to have a preview of that later on in an episode this week. But please, Syracuse, let's fill the dome. Let's do it for these seniors. It's senior day. Let's send Dungy and the rest of these seniors off really strong. Fill the dome. What else do you want? There's been some negative feedback. Last week against NC State, not the showing we exactly expected. 13th ranked team in the country as of right now, 7-2. A chance to go undefeated at home in the Loud House Carrier Dome. Fill it. Let's get loud. Let's get proud. I know I'm going to be there, so let's fill the dome this weekend, Orange Nation. Just wanted to shout that out. I know Syracuse is having some good ticket offers. Let's take advantage of those and fill up the Carrier Dome. Basketball is going to kick off, or actually I should say tip off, rather, in their season opener this Tuesday against Eastern Washington at 7 p.m. in the Carrier Dome. Later on this week, we're going to have an episode to discuss that, a basketball preview of Eastern Washington, as well as a Louisville preview. Actually, excuse me, that's going to be a basketball post-game, I think. Not too much to preview with them. I'll give you my prediction right now. It's a Syracuse win. So that's how we're going to start off this season, and I'm very excited for that game. I'm going to be watching that. And later on in the week, we'll have a post-game for that. We're going to preview Louisville, really get into depth of that. So a lot of excitement. Stay tuned later on in the week. I got nothing left, guys. Thanks for watching. It's been great. I have a lot of fun doing this. I'm definitely going to keep it up, and I hope you guys keep on watching. You guys are huge. You guys are what's driving this show right now. Like I said already, almost 200 views on the first episode, which is a lot more, exceeding my expectations. So keep active. Come on Twitter a little bit more. Hit me up there at GeoHeater. I'm going to do a lot of polls, so definitely be active there. I want people to be filling in on there because I'd like to incorporate that into the show more if I can get more activity in the polls, in the comment sections, and flourish into the show Orange Heat. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more later in the week. Have a great one, and let's go Orange!